Tonight, severe thunderstorms are on our doorstep. It's the same line of storms that hammered the Windsor area earlier tonight, toppling trees and producing some sizable hail. Plus, the family of Regis Krichinsky Paquette is calling on the SIU to share evidence or turn over the investigation. And a sign summer isn't totally canceled in Toronto. We'll tell you when city pools could open up and when you might be able to send your kid off to day camp. Well, the heat and humidity giving way to some severe weather tonight. Just listen to it coming down. This is in Burlington. The GTA has been under a severe thunderstorm watch for most of the evening. It is right on our doorstep now. We'll get to our meteorologist Colette Kennedy in just a moment. We want to show you some images, though, first from Windsor earlier today. A severe storm ripped through the region late this afternoon, packing strong winds. As you can see, left their mark there. And check this out. It wasn't just wind, but hail, almost golf balls size hail raining down in southwestern Ontario. Now, Colette Kennedy is standing by right now in our weather center. Colette, what a night. We have Toronto Hydro reporting as many as 10,000 people without power in the Junction Triangle and Birchcliff Heights areas in Scarborough. Hydro One is reporting over 50,000 customers in southern and central Ontario currently without power.
Yeah, that's right, Mike, and that's because there are so many components to these storms, but the winds and the wind gusts being one of the biggest problems, bringing down some of those power lines and also those tree limbs, as you saw. Now, I just want to get you up to date on what's going on right now. Just over this past half hour, Toronto was upgraded to a severe thunderstorm warning, meaning that the cells or the storms were imminent that were severe. And they've actually been tracking eastward, moving at a pretty good clip. So now those warnings extended over towards Pickering, Oshawa, southern Durham region. And I'm going to show you exactly where that kind of main line is. And though we're not out of it for the city, or those of you watching from the city, we are seeing some improvement there. So going in for a closer look, you can see the warning areas are all these areas in red. Still watches extended around the Golden Horseshoe. Still some strong storms too in eastern sections of the Niagara region. So here's your current radar imagery kind of showing you. And again, this is more that main line. So that last image there, that's why I'm saying now, that's why it's over towards Pickering and that Oshawa region. But that does extend down here towards Niagara Falls. So you've got some pretty significant storms there too. You can see the lightning strikes here and see how there's more rain still coming right there into the city, but there aren't as many lightning strikes there. That's because, again, the main line of the strongest storms has pushed through the city now and is continuing to track to the east. So there are all those lightning strikes associated, very heavy downpours, and we know the winds. Earlier today, 32 degrees as these storms have been coming through, Mike. Boy, it's taken our temperatures down to 19 degrees. Cooler are moving in, but a breezy day tomorrow. So much more to tell you about. That's all coming up a little later.
Okay, thanks, Colette. We'll be back and talk to you later in the newscast.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. Take advantage of special offers now. It's hard to stop a train.
It looks like the investigation into the death of Regis Krichinsky Paquette will move forward. Her family now says they are willing to speak with investigators about the night their daughter fell from a 24-story balcony after a police call. But as Lauren Pelly tells us, they're also calling on the SIU to boost its transparency.
It's been 2 weeks since the death of Regis Krichinsky Paquette. The 29-year-old fell from 24 stories up after being alone in her family's High Park apartment with police. Now her family says they are willing to speak with the Special Investigations Unit, but the family's lawyer wants them to share the evidence gathered so far or turn the probe over to an outside agency.
At this time, the family's hoping that the investigation will be fair and transparent.
It's a request echoed by close to 5,000 people who've all signed this online petition.
And it's not that the public wants to see police be charged with offenses, but they do want to see police be accountable.
The police watchdog has so far reviewed security footage and interviewed the officers on scene that night, along with 7 other witnesses. The family held off speaking with the SIU, upset that details of the case were leaked to the Toronto Sun. Krichinsky Paquette's mother previously said she called police after a family conflict, hoping officers could take her daughter to a mental health facility. It's unclear what happened next.
If you think that law enforcement should be looking after health, then we've got an issue.
Toronto's outgoing police chief wants more funding for outside agencies to step in instead.
Mental health is health, and the fact that we are doing most of the heavy lifting when people are in crisis, there's a loud commentary on that, and I'm hoping that there's an opportunity that the right agencies and the right levels of government, all three levels of government, figure out what we can do to help reduce our responses to that.
Public outcry has grown louder in recent weeks, focused on the questions around the Krichinsky Paquette case and broader calls to claw back police funding. As that tension persists, it's still not clear what went wrong that night in May, before a young woman fell to her death. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
The family of Tess Ricci filed a lawsuit against Toronto police and the man who killed her today. They are seeking compensation for what they describe as psychological devastation resulting from her murder 2.5 years ago. Ali Chasson has more.
How does a healthy, vibrant 22-year-old woman go missing, murdered by a stranger, left in the bottom of a stairwell, not to be found by police, but her own mother?
I've called it the perfect storm from the very beginning.
From the bar, they allege she was overserved.
The coach that person, just give her whatever coach she says is hers and get her out of here.
To the staircase she and Schlater walked to, which they feel should have had lights and been blocked off.
They tried to say that they weren't constructing there. That's why, legally, they didn't have to cordon it off.
To the Toronto police.
Had the police simply done their job, a lot of mental anguish could have been prevented.
The Ricci family has filed a $20 million lawsuit that names the nightclub, the property where she was killed, the Toronto police, and Kalen Schlater himself. He'll be 46 years old after he's done serving his 25-year prison sentence.
The civil suit is aimed at holding him accountable for the significant damage done to this family. So when he gets out of jail, he can expect that we'll be waiting and looking to hold him accountable for the rest of his life.
The statement of claim also alleges the village was a blind spot for the police, the same area serial killer Bruce MacArthur could prowl for years without being caught.
And don't get me wrong, Kalen Schlater is the one to blame for what happened here, but others share the blame.
Maybe Schlater would not have felt like that was a neighborhood he could not behave that way in.
None of the claims have been tested in front of a judge. The Toronto police declined to comment because the matter is now before the courts. But they say 2 officers are facing charges under the Police Services Act relating to the initial search for Tess Ricci.
When Tess's life was taken, the world lost because that girl was going places. She was important.
Legacy leads to change.
Tess's mom and her sisters do not want her death to be in vain and hope the perfect storm clears.
That's what we want her legacy to be, is exactly that.
Yeah, change.
Ali Chasson, CBC News, Toronto.
We now know the name of the man killed in a double shooting in Leaside last night. Police say he is 20-year-old Maz Jogiet of Toronto. He was shot last night around 7:30 at Leonard Linton Park. That's near Leslie and Eglinton. Now, another man was also shot there, but he suffered only minor injuries. Police said the suspects were driving in a dark-colored 4-door SUV, last seen heading northbound on Brentcliffe Road towards Eglinton Avenue. They say the park was very busy at the time of the shooting, and they're urging anyone with information to come forward. Premier Doug Ford is awaiting his COVID-19 test results tonight after his education minister came into contact with someone who was infected. It forced the Premier to miss his daily media briefing today. Now, a short time after the briefing, we learned that Minister Stephen Lecce's test did come back negative. Health Minister Christine Elliott is also being tested. Both of them came into contact with Lecce after this joint news conference yesterday. Now, despite Lecce testing negative, Ford's office says he was still tested out of an abundance of caution. Well, the only one speaking at that press conference today was Ross Romano. He is the Colleges and Universities Minister. He announced limited in-person instruction is being allowed to resume at all Ontario's post-secondary schools.
We are announcing here today a framework to reopen the post-secondary sector in Ontario, and that will begin as early as July 2nd of this year.
That first phase of the plan will accommodate students who weren't able to graduate due to the pandemic. In September, all students will have the opportunity to attend either post-secondary, either virtually in class or through a combination of both. There will be limits on the number of students on campus. The province says it will release a list of health and safety protocols in the coming days. There's more fallout tonight from the decision to allow childcare centres across the province to reopen on Friday. Some operators say the few days' notice they got isn't enough time to safely open for business again. Lorenda Redikoff visited one centre in Toronto to get a sense of the challenges involved in getting ready.
At this private childcare centre along the Danforth, the owners are now looking at everything that will have to be changed.
This is one of our toddler rooms, so we'll have to separate out their cubbies and where things are placed, toys changed around, things relabeled, things put away. We only got the protocols at 11:30 last night.
This room used to have 26 kids. Now it'll be 8 plus 2 staff.
All the rugs will have to be removed. We have a lot of wood because that part of our philosophy is to have natural products and natural textures and just keep that atmosphere very calm. But unfortunately, a lot of those things will have to go, and it'll be the plastic and things that are easily sterilized.
She's a former musician, struggling with one part of the guidelines.
We've been told no singing inside, and I mean, we do that all day long. I never stop singing. I walk into a room singing, and they start singing with me, and we start doing things. And so we'll have to do that outside. So I guess we're going to go outside a lot and sing, because I'm certainly not going to have no singing in the center.
And there are costs.
There is a wage subsidy for a certain period of time that will help with that. Everything that we use in the center has tripled in price. A box of gloves that was $3 is now $9 or $10, for example. We go through hundreds of gloves every single day.
One parent has 2 kids here, including her 4.5-year-old son who's special needs. Like in many households, she and her husband are talking about it.
My son's going to be going to school in September, so that was a huge factor because we want him to get some socialization so he's not going from isolation for 5 months to school. So we landed on, we're going to see how the numbers go the next 2 to 3 weeks.
The centre says the earliest they could possibly open would be July 2nd.
We need assistance, we need clear guidelines, we need time, we need messages put out that are reflect reality. No, we can't open on Friday.
Lorenda Redikoff, CBC News, Toronto.
If you live in Brampton, you can start visiting a city park again tomorrow, at least officially. The city's mayor announcing how it will start easing pandemic restrictions today.
This will include open shade, picnic shelters, benches, leash-free dog parks, the White Spruce Park, disc golf course, and skate parks. I would note this does not include playground and play structure, sports fields, amenities, outdoor fitness equipment, outdoor swimming pools, splash pads, wading pools, washrooms, or drinking water systems. They still remain closed within the parks.
Well, that said, Brampton is one of the last regions in the GTA to make those modest moves. Although 500 parks will be reopening, there is still some strict enforcement of physical distancing. Now, over the weekend, the city gave out a record number of fines to people who weren't following distancing rules. Bylaw officers busted 24 house parties, 4 parking lot gatherings, and a hair salon that was operating against provincial emergency rules. And Mississauga is also starting to reopen more spaces. It's even hosting its first pop-up testing center at the Milton Community Center on Friday. The mayor says cases in that part of the GTA are stabilizing.
We approved a plan to reopen our weekly Lions Club Farmers Market and the food trucks at Celebration Square. I know many are missing spending time in our beautiful Celebration Square with their family and their friends. And while things won't be completely back to normal this year, we're very pleased to be doing what we can to inject some energy back into Celebration Square.
Now, both the food trucks and the farmers market will have to operate with physical distancing rules. Food trucks will be required to use a food app so that customers can order in advance and pick up their food when it's ready. The city is hoping this will be in place by the end of June. The mayor says the city is also hoping its summer camps will be able to run starting in July if COVID numbers continue to decline. And Toronto is moving ahead with opening some city-run camps. A limited number will start on July 13th for kids aged 6 to 12. Spots will, of course, be limited due to social distancing guidelines. Details on the camps and how to register will be posted on the city website this weekend. Meanwhile, city-run pools could soon open.
This is our plan to give residents access to outdoor aquatic amenities, including swimming beaches, outdoor and wading pools, and splash pads.
Crews are preparing hundreds of pools, splash pads, and other water amenities, but they won't be available until Toronto enters phase 2 of the province's reopening plan. That could happen, though, as early as next Friday. Well, no one should be going for a swim late night tonight, though. We're still under a severe thunderstorm watch. You can see it rolling through the skies. Colette is back after the break to tell us when we're going to be out of the woods. Stay with us. Quite the active night when it comes to the weather. Let's go straight to Colette Kennedy. We're still in the middle of it. We weren't hearing any thunderstorms where we are right in Toronto, but we know it's raining outside.
Oh, it sure is, Mike. A very fluid situation as things are changing rapidly. And most of the storms, the strongest line anyway, now just to the east of the downtown core, and that thunder going along with it. Our current temperatures at 19. What a change from 32 this afternoon. And earlier today, we had a humidex, a new record, in fact, for this date of 41. Well, our current humidex, much more comfortable. That's what happens with this cold front. New air masses moving in. Updates now for the city of Toronto. We are no longer in the severe thunderstorm warning. I'm just waiting for this this map, this graphic to update. But for Pickering, Oshawa, those regions, you are still in the warning because that's kind of where that line is. And also eastern sections here of the Niagara region, we still have those storms that are rolling through. So this is just taking you the last hour, and the last image is where things are right now. So there are those stronger storms pushing towards Clarington, moving through the Niagara region and pushing across the international border there. I want to take you back to earlier this evening and just show you this imagery. Now, I've circled London and Ingersoll just because with all the colors on the maps, it's kind of hard to see with this radar. What I want to point out of what happened between 8 and 9 p.m., I'm going to focus right here. This is about 8:35 on this little cell right here. Not so little. Very strong cell that pushed through right around the Dorchester region to the north of the 401. Looks like there may have been a tornado associated with that cell. Environment Canada will send a crew and they will determine whether it actually was and see if there's any damage. And we'll know more about that in the coming days, probably as soon as tomorrow. But there may have indeed been a tornado from some of these storms. So this is your current imagery, just showing you where that line is. So there's some of the stronger stuff just to the east of the city there as well, where we're still into some very heavy downpours, a lot of lightning, small hail potential there, but some of those wind gusts exceeding 110 kilometers an hour, and that's why we've been dealing with the power outages as well. This is mostly rain and not so many thunderstorms in that section of the system. It continues to move through. A cooler air mass will move in, but it leaves us with a breezy day into Thursday and also a few isolated showers possible. A secondary cold front goes through into Friday, and we could have a few sprinkles out of that. Really not much there. It's actually going to be dry, and we're going to have quite a bit of sunshine going forward, but just cooler temperatures, much more comfortable, which I think a lot of you are going to appreciate. Lows tonight, 17 to 18, so still dropping another couple of degrees. Look at these highs tomorrow. Yeah, just in the low 20s. So we're actually looking at some really comfortable days coming ahead, Mike.
Big change from today, thanks to that
Right.
thunderstorm. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Students at a Toronto school recently challenged themselves to do something during this pandemic. Well, their goal was to complete 250 acts of kindness. Now, not only did they complete those acts, but they are now well on their way to 400. Now, to celebrate and to fulfill his end of the bargain, their gym teacher biked through their neighborhood today.
So today, since we surpassed our goal of 250 kind acts, our teacher, Mr. Ricci, is riding around in a cow costume with his bike around different neighborhoods, and so it's like a celebration of completing our goal.
I told them that if we reached our goal of 250 acts, that I would ride around the neighborhoods of the school, and we made it. We're over 400 acts right now.
I think even though everybody feels kind of lonely, if we can help them, then maybe they'll feel a bit less lonely, and like, you know, there are people out there looking out for them, and yeah, and you know, we give artwork and stuff, so I think that helps with everybody.
Students are the future, and they are already interested in helping others. They are already wanting to do these things, so I'm just there to help them. I'm not the one that came up with all these ideas, the students did, and I just help them facilitate. So they already want to do these things.
I think our children and our students need to learn to lead. They need to learn to be the ones who can make the change in the world, and I think they can do better than what we've done in the past. They can learn from our mistakes. Everybody learns from mistakes, and they can find a way to make the world the one they want to make.
And if your kids don't go to that school, but you saw a cow on a bike, now you know why. When we come back, how even COVID-19 couldn't stop a next-door friendship.
Yeah. Like when COVID-19 didn't happen, like if it was like a really warm day like today, we'd be like hanging out in the backyards together. So we can't really like we can do that.
While this pandemic can be isolating, two best friends have found a way to connect. The families of the 9-year-olds have created an outdoor window between their fences so the BFFs can still play together while in their own backyards.
Okay, so this is best of 5. The final round. Dun dun dun. Dun.
Okay. I got the idea to put a window in down the side of the fence where they can get really up close, nose to nose with each other and chat and see each other nice and close. I feel like children really need to physically be close together, you know, and just to read each other's eyes and expressions, and I don't know, I think it's just really important for their mental health to connect with their peers physically, not just on a tablet.
This is fun. Hug. Yay. Like when COVID-19 didn't happen, like if it was like a really warm day like today, we'd be like hanging out in the backyards together. So we can't really like we can do that, but like we can't be in like the same backyard playing some of the games that we played before.
The girls' morale has just been boosted by this. They're able to see each other clearly, talk. They have lunch outside now together. This is from 9 o'clock in the morning now till 8 o'clock at night.
Simon says, do 2 jumping jacks. When I grow up and I tell them, when I have children, what I'll tell them is that there was this big virus and I couldn't see like any of my friends. So then our parents took out a couple of the fences and put in plexiglass. And I'll tell my children that it made me feel really happy. Now Simon says, touch your hips.
Wonderful story. Well, that's our newscast for tonight. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.